If you're working as we normally have done for generations in an office, there are 1,000 little social connections a day that we don't take into account at all. When you're suddenly working from home, those little social connections are removed completely. What we try and do is replace them with Zoom calls and pizza nights, and they just fundamentally don't work because they're not emotional. There's no emotional connection. And what social distancing is about is the emotional connection between me as a human being and my place of work, my employer. There's some very interesting research by Professor Tsedal Neely at Harvard about this idea of social distance, this emotional impact of being remote from work. Has a very debilitating effect on most people and a very debilitating effect on a small number of people. I mean, really quite serious. So the question is, how do you overcome that? So we have obviously a huge data set on organizational performance from companies all over the world, and particularly purpose itself and how purpose is impacting on how people feel. And so we thought we'd have a look and see what the difference between remote workers and office-based workers are. And we were completely stunned at the difference. So when you look at people who work in any organization, those people who believe the company stands for something beyond profit. In other words, they have a sense that the company has a sense of purpose. They are much more committed, much more engaged, as you would expect. But what we were amazed by is the difference between remote workers on the one hand and office-based workers on the other. Remote workers seem hypersensitive to purpose. I mean, 3 times the uplift in terms of their level of commitment for those who believe the company to be purposeful over their office-based peers. That's a 3 times impact. That is a remarkable, statistically remarkable effect. And it's completely mystifying. I mean, why would purpose have so much impact on a remote worker, so much higher than on their office peers? And the answer goes back, I think, to Professor Neely's idea of social distance. Because what appears to be happening is purpose bridges that social distance, because I now believe, working from home, that I'm engaged in a common endeavor, that we are sharing a common sense of purpose. And that keeps me engaged. It keeps me committed. It allows me to work autonomously in a sustained way. And that is really, really important for organizations now that are seeking to get remote working, because they need to understand how their purpose is impacting on their people. You know, are people who are working remotely clear about purpose? Do they see it every day in how the business makes decisions and how they're managed? Do they trust the organization and the culture? Trust is critical in this. And finally, do they take ownership? Are they allowed to take ownership? Because without ownership, you won't get that kind of sustained, ongoing commitment. So purpose in the remote working conversation is absolutely key in a way we've never really understood before.